It is a double elimination bracket, so we'll watch the lower bracket as long as possible, but Korea has been rather notorious pretty consistently for the last 10 years at not sticking around for the lower bracket. Even if it's very tempting. I'm serious. Even if there's like 8 players, so you're already like really close to qualifying, and they're like, you gotta play in the lower bracket, sorry. They'll be like, nah, you know what? Nope, not gonna happen. So we'll see how many people stick around. Yeah. Yep. It is only a 1-day qualifier for Korea because there aren't as many signups as Europe or North America. So it doesn't take nearly as long despite having a lower bracket. And yeah, lower bracket also has a lot of forfeits. So it usually doesn't last that long as a tournament, as a qualifier. Probably maybe max 5 hours, I'm going to guess. But I won't be sticking around till the very, very end, as eventually everyone is just casting the same thing. And Wardy has that preference. He's the only official main caster. So we'll ride this out as long as we can. In the bottom right, as the blue Zerg, it is Ragnarok. In the top left, as the red Terran, it is Time. Who cast, he played last qualifier, didn't catch him in the first one, I didn't cast the first Korean one, but didn't look so hot versus Protoss. I mean, certainly still good. You know, he was 2-1 against, or 1-2'd rather against, I want to say like Creator or someone like that. But yeah, couldn't actually get past it. The Protoss block. He has some, I don't want to say old school, but some unique takes on the builds he uses versus Protoss. But TVZ might be a different story. Now, Ragnarok at one point was the online warrior, and everyone knew Cure was pretty good online, and we talked a lot about that. But Ragnarok was like one of, I think, the OGs in the last year to be really good online. He just never really got super, super far because of it.
Thank you for becoming a member.
We didn't have that direct, you know, correlation, I don't know, of doing well online to doing well offline. But it's also a bit tougher for the Koreans to do that since they only have so many tournaments to work with. 6 lings here from Ragnarok. Interesting. Usually you do only need 4. But actually going very safe not to let that Reaper through do any damage to the drone. I remember back when, like, I think it was like Home Story Cup, Sue and a couple of other Zergs were talking. They actually got like an all-Korean cast, and it was kind of funny. But like someone asked him about how many lings you need, and Sue was like, "Oh, only you need 6. You need 6." And then they only went 4, and then the 4 died in the game that he was casting. He was like, "I told you, you need 6." But that's actually not usually the case. Minor notes here. Thank you, Spellpox, for the tier 1 sub. Yeah, this is, of course, Korea Bunny on the ladder. I mean, I kind of even forgot there is a European Bunny because he hasn't played in a long time. Oh, gosh. All right, then. We got that Roach Horn on the way. So, the other thing I want to bring up for Ragnarok was that not only was he an online guy for a little while there, but that he also did a lot of cheeses in all lanes. It seemed like the time when his online performance was strongest was when he was, his attacks were just actually working. I mean, I'm sure there's some technical level as to why they got better. You know, he got better at the hitting the exact build order as well as...
Thank you for your monetary support.
Thank you very much. I saw that GIF. I wonder what this was going to be. Who is this? Tiny Ledge for the $50. I appreciate this stream. Simple, elegant, wonderful. I love it. Thank you very much. But anyways, it did seem like just for a time, Ragnarok was just choosing the right builds. Like his decision making could make no wrong decision, and it would always work or get close to working, or certainly it would work often enough to win a series. But then it stopped working all the time, and it kind of died down again. In this game, this decision actually works out really well, but he doesn't know about the Hellbats. So, unfortunately, running 2 Roaches right into the center of Hellbats as they're forming their push. Loses 1, but yeah, having Roaches against the Hellbats It's actually a pretty damn good thing here. Liberator is also destroyed pretty easily with the queens coming back, despite not having that many queens as you dedicate to the attack. But this is a great start. We'll see if Ragnarok can do any damage on the other side of the map, because it's actually kind of this weird thing, right, where who gets the worst end of the trade? Both of them were going to do dedicated attacks, but of course we talk about the difference of Terran versus Zerg. One can make economy and attack, although the other one usually has to choose between the two and gets could be a little bit more in a difficult position because of this. The Hellbats, despite not being the best thing against Roaches and Ravagers, do help. And then the number of them as they stay alive, because they're chunkier than regular Hellions, can take care of the Lings that usually follow this up and really do the damage. Ragnarok, realizing that this wasn't really going to work out from the get-go, was a smart call. Again, those Roaches might be able to try and tackle the Hellbats a bit, but the Lings, which really do the most damage, or really what complicates matters for the Terran player, weren't going to really get anything done. He would have really needed to have enough units to tear down the Hellbats quickly, and also, you know, time to not be prepared as well would be the ideal. So he went back into droning very quickly, and is already up to 62 drones. So it does seem like ultimately things go a bit in Ragnarok's favor. He deflects the Hellbat push with time. He did have to dedicate to. You know, I say that the one race can build both workers and attacks. That's true, but you still have to give up something, right? In this case, it was a bit of that barracks production as you build more Hellions, as you get that armory. 30C is also a bit delayed with that type of push. And actually, I don't think... I mean, upgrades, like, everything's a little bit delayed, but... Yeah, I think he also went for 2 Liberators instead of just the 1, because 1 attacked, 1 helped. I mean, pushing all the production off is mostly what I see. But Ragnarok, well, he did have a blip where his drone count was not that good. By droning immediately, it's already good. 4th base, not going to be available for a little while to actually saturate, but he's good to go. And continuing with the Roaches as well, which... No, not because he thinks it's going to be mech or something like that, but rather that 1-1 Roaches... It's a good attack, and it's also just kind of popular on Nightshade. I feel like on Korean server as well, really. We see Dark do a lot of this, and Dark kind of leading the charge for the Zerg. It's one of the best Zergs, if not the best Zerg. Time does not take that forward position, which can be very dangerous against, especially a 1-1 Roach Ravager player, just in general Roach Ravager, which can bring it to the Terran a little bit more because you're dedicating to a push than, you know, simply defensive macro Ling of Baneling Muta. So definitely like this for time. Possibly dealt with a lot of these Roach pushes before, or just recognize that Ragnarok is going to dedicate to the Roaches and Ravagers. I set up walls, to set up tanks, and is just staying at home defensively set up while doing at least a little bit of counter damage. Actually, those were double drops, but he does not have that many units to spare for that. He would have liked to have enough units back at home, as well as do a double drop, but the Hellions might be actually able to do something here. Queen's gonna go down. 1-1 is done for Ragnarok, but also done for time. 2 tanks, now a 3rd tank joins the fray. SCs are gonna immediately be pulled. This tank maybe gonna get a couple of shots. Actually, the Corrosive Bio's not targeting this tank like I thought they would. Going for, okay, finally the tank, and then the 2nd tank does go down as well. But the Bio has stayed a long time here. They had all of its upgrades, they had Medivacs healing. The tanks got more shots than I think they really should have, and the SCV pull was absolutely warranted. 15 SCVs go down, but a 4th base is done. All I need to do is hold on here. We got more Roaches on the way. His upgrades also start for Ragnarok. The Hellions have been cleaned up without doing too much damage, but time holds against the push. He now has 2 factories pumping out tanks, a 4th CC, as I said, so he could really rebuild that economy quite nicely. He just needs to make sure not to die to the follow-up, which is going to be a little bit scary, but we even have a Liberator coming forward. A lot of the Ravagers did die. Ragnarok thought he had the chance to push through, at the very least stop the really important units from accumulating. Those tanks, you know, if you can tear them down to 0 tanks, and then they have to wait for each tank, and usually not 2 at a time. This is really nice for time. But yeah, if they have to wait for each tank, that's when the next wave really does a lot of damage, since the Medivac's usually out of juice and the Bio just can't quite get to that ball that it really wants to be in. But in this case, Time actually managed to get 2 tanks out pretty quickly, 3rd tank and a 4th tank on the way. And Ragnarok's 2nd attack, I mean, it could still work. He still has a lot of units. And he even canceled +2 as he realized he probably has a chance to do this here. But what is Corso Bow's going to target fire? 4 tanks actually out right now. This is the one trying to die, but not doing so. The Liberator does go down. Lots of Marines left over, but those medevacs are out of juice like I was talking about. You got to sacrifice something when you're trying to build starports, Marines, and tanks. But the tanks would have been the right call. They got so many shots on both sides of the army. Even as Ragnarok tried to get a big ol' surround, this time the SCVs did not have to be pulled. So Time has 62 workers and 4 command centers. He's working on that 2-2 as well. He was able to fit that in. The biggest sacrifice was those medevacs, but it seemed to be the right call. He did have about 30 seconds plus to actually regenerate some healing on that. And he also is making the crucial decision as well, I would say, to continue just building Marines. We do see this sometimes an extended period of just Marine production. You do eventually want to be adding in those Marauders, though, especially because they can actually live like a long time with medevacs healing them. And they, of course, have the extra damage versus the roaches. But the Marines are giving him the flexibility to also build these other units. The more expensive units for the less expensive units, but still providing bodies in front of the tanks, which is probably the most important thing. So the tanks are really having a tough time for Ragnarok to actually snipe those, to tear them down. Every time he tried to push in, it felt like those tanks were getting just a few extra shots than they really should have. 4th Command Center going on location is a bit of a stretch to expect that to happen immediately, and this is actually a bit dangerous, but Ragnarok, he was able to remax a second time pretty quickly. That third time was a bit more of a struggle, especially as he realizes this isn't actually going to win the game. He has to start his upgrades. He has to think about the future. So he started +1 melee, now starting +2 Carapace, Baneling Nest, Infestation Pit all on the way as he swaps into Ravager, Ling Baneling perhaps more so, and maybe some room for Ultras later on. As a Roach Ravager certainly just won't cut it as the game goes on, as the upgrades finish here for Time, and exactly as I say it, 2-2 is finishing up. That's when the sustained damage of a Roach army really starts to look quite poor, especially because also Time has been prepping his army against this for a while. But now would be a good time to start adding in those Marauders, start dropping as well. The creep threat certainly was starting to get a little out of control. Not much that Time could do about it, unfortunately. So he's trying to make up for it now. Eventually add in maybe another set of medevac drops as he can afford them. But first of all, secure that 4th base and start that 3-3, which he does. Hive already on the way. Burrow also on the way, which is really cool to see. Just a little bit of an annoyance. I don't think we're going to see any burrowed baneling bombs, especially because the creep spread is so far out. But, eventually we might. Some of the queens did go down to those Hellbats. Really would have wanted to, get the entire 4th hatchery as they weren't paying attention. But at least they got a couple of queens. So there's not too many on the front to replace the creep spread. Eventually, she also will probably go down, the one creep spreading queen. There's that second drop I was talking about. You really got to have at least 2 drops out. Eventually, going to have the main push as well with these 2 drops, which really is going to tear. Whoops. A little too far away from those medevacs. Which is really going to pull the Roach Ravager army apart. They're going to start making mistakes. Their Ling Banelings are better at handling this than the Roach Ravagers are, but you still want every one of these units on the front line against the eventual push. I'm actually really surprised he still hasn't added on Marauders, but if it works then, right? As I was saying, this isn't the first time I've seen just them, mostly, if not all, Marines being produced with the tanks, but I think that also does mean that you have to be very good about producing double tanks. No skipping the production there, which he did not for a while, but now is doing so, as he is, close to being just, maxed out. But also starting adding some Liberators, as well as more of those medevacs, so they are plenty juiced. The tanks just dodging out of corrosive biles as Ragnarok tries to buy more time. Might have to give up a base, but that could be okay. He has a 5th base at the top right. Gonna take a bit of an engagement. He saw an opportunity with the tanks being all clumped up. Gotta be careful, though. With that many Marines working on 3-3, they already have +3 attack. He needs to have Banelings provided so that the Marines actually can't jump on top of the Roach Ravager, because they are capable of doing that even without the tanks, I think. With these upgrades, with the amount of medevacs there are, yeah. Good defense at the top right against that other double drop. So we do have just a scenario where Ragnarok is worried about one thing at a time, which is going to help him a little bit here. He still needs to find a decent concave, and I mean, Yeah, I mean, more than the concave. Okay, he's got Vipers. All right. I was like, the concave may not do it. The Vipers, however, are really going to help out here. Blinding Clouds on 2 sets of the tanks. 4 taken out of the equation. 5 actually taken out of the equation. However, Banelings rolling into the tanks not so efficiently. Looks like it's not going to be enough here for time to stick around. As inefficient as those Banelings might have looked, there are plenty behind that. And they did actually destroy the tanks. The Marine count started to go really, really low, as there weren't quite that many medevacs. There weren't a medevac for every Marine, and they should be dying fairly quickly to the Ravager shots, actually. Even though they don't get splashed by the Banelings, the Ravagers should still be taking them out. It's the Marauders that can stick around for a very long time, which time is now building as he adds on those additional 3 barracks. You'll always see this in TVZ. It's 5 and then 8, and then those 6, 7, 8 barracks are going to have tech labs, as it also mirrors the transition to ultras usually, depending on how even the game has been with the pacing that a TVZ usually has. So he's building Marauders now, and those will be able to stay alive even without the help of the medevacs, constantly. But yeah, the army got thinned out here as it got pulled back, as the tanks got taken out of the equation. Really nice hold from Ragnarok, who also did this while holding a 5th base to the top right. I think that was pretty not risky, but it was just dangerous. It was going to potentially go down to a double drop. It just was good defense from Ragnarok, as well as having this bottom left base. He might have canceled it once, but I don't even think he did. It's almost already done, so really nicely done. Time is matching the macro, though. So 5 bases for him, and a 6th and a 7th on the way. And he has better composition against the Ultras, but is it going to be enough? He's a little out of position here, as most of his army was actually to the top right, dealing with the Ling run by, which didn't kill that many SCVs, but yeah, pulled the army out of position. Now he brings it all together, snipes the Ultras, as well upgraded as they were. As good as the Blinding Clouds were to take the tanks out of the equation, Time has enough units, and ooh, the Burrowed Banelings. I don't think that was noticeable. That was a burrowed splash attack. A little bit awkward. I'm actually not sure how that detonated. Maybe he accidentally detonated one of them, or I missed a splash hitting it, but regardless. Fitting in the Marauder slow as well. I think he realized he didn't get that immediately. Thank you very much, Heartworm, for the 200 bits. Whew. Cool first game of the day. I'll take the time, I guess, now to remind everyone that it's like 3:30 in the morning for me, so I'm trying not to, like, yell and get super hyped. But this game is pretty cool. Ragnarok really utilizing Burrow, blocking out the potential 6th base or 5th or whatever it would have been, and then just burrowing a Ling run by as Time does his own run by / drop. Starts clearing up that creep spread. The creep spread is looking a lot better. It's a lot more manageable now, but... oh, shit. Time... kind of running out of room to maneuver back there. He's going to lose a tank. Nope, not quite. Ooh, the Burrowed Banelings! Catching mostly Marauders, they don't actually 2-shot them, but... Ragnarok using some really cool moves. I still don't think Time noticed. I constantly doubt myself. Were they Burrowed Banelings or weren't they? Blinding Cloud on top of the Marauders has caused some confusion with the AI, but the Ultra's still going down. Big Ling run to the top right. 15 SCVs go down, but the walls... no, actually not holding. It's just the Ling numbers are getting a little cold there. Tanks on the high ground taken out by the Vipers. Time down to his last units on the front lines. He'll probably be forced to pick up and get out of here, but I don't know if he's paying attention. I think he was dealing with the Ling drop, or actually he's microing his drop to the right side, but that's not really a drop anymore. It's just a couple of units kind of hanging out, killing a couple of drones while they wait to die. That's what they were doing there. Probably not worth losing the bunch of Marauders that were at the bottom left. Time actually dips scary low in the supply, considering that he also lost a lot of the economy to replace that very quickly. I mean, some of that supply dip is because he lost economy, but I guess his army is actually even. There's a bigger ball up here I didn't notice, but still. It's always worrying when you see that supply dip, as, we know that Zergs are capable of remaxing faster. They still have to get across the map. They still might not be on the best units. Have to wait for the Banelings to form. Still have roaches to give away type thing, but it is always a little scary. But Time's good to go. He's going to continue dropping. He's not going to stop pressuring because he really can't afford to. As soon as he stops doing drops, even tiny little drops that don't seem to do very much, that's when the creep spray gets out of control. That's when the bases get out of control. That's when Ragnarok focuses just purely on the push and does everything correctly. Gets his good blinding clouds and good surround, and that's something that Time doesn't want to have to deal with. Drops of the way the Terran, man. His top right base is tricky. I swear to God, I like sometimes don't even scout it. It is fully mining, and Time does know about it, but even as he tries to spread the Zerg as far apart as possible, bottom left to top right, Ragnarok has some good defense. Most of his army's to the top right, so that makes it a little bit easier. But also the bottom left, a single ultra, obnoxious at dealing with drops. Actually, just did a really good job. I hope the players didn't feel that this is a really important moment. The snipes do go down to the ultras, but tanks not surviving very long. Army starting to go down to the banelings. This actually is going to be the push to win it all. I really hope the players didn't feel that. That was awkward. Okay, well, GG. Good game there in the blink of an eye. I mean, Ragnarok was dealing with the drops, wasn't feeling too pressured, still had a lot of bank. Well, he was going to start accruing a bank anyway. Still had a lot of economy to work with. Decided, you know what? I think I can push and win. And he was right about that. Sorry for my replay submission, might be a bit non-meta. It's all good, man. Thank you, Ganoi, for the 100 bits. 8:30 in the morning club. Oh, Red985, thank you for 500 bits. I feel like I missed that. Thank you. Game number 2 here on Zen. In the top right, as the blue Zerg, it is Ragnarok. In the bottom left, as the red Terran, he is Time. An extra swivel, super fancy. So fancy, oh my god. Looks like Scarlett's streaming her point of view. That's pretty cool. Spoiler alert for the GSL group. And you guys, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hopefully you turned off the stream. Or I'm muted. Yeah, GSL group played out 24 hours ago. Something like that. Of course, it's a perfectly reasonable time in Korea, not in America though. But yeah, 24 hours ago, and it was a cool group for sure. To not spoil, just watch the first series. Tasia versus Dark was a very, very good TVZ. But then now on to the spoiler. Unfortunately, both of the fan favorites did end up falling despite some very good showings to start things off. Tasia taking on Dark, almost very close to actually beating him. Was impressive. He almost took out Deer as well, but I think he doesn't really feel comfortable in TVP, if I had to guess. And then Scarlet taking out Deer, and then almost taking out Dark herself. But both ended up falling. Really disappointing. I mean, there's a lot of pressure on especially Scarlet, as she knows the... she can actually read the expectation of her English fans, right? People who speak English, but... Tasia, while he might not be as... I don't know, aware of his fan favorites is, that might not, I don't think that's the right phrase, but anyways, how much of a fan favorite he is. Obviously still feels the pressure having come back from military, still trying to prove himself and not having too many opportunities because, yeah, Korea is a really difficult region. It's always been a difficult region, even when there was enough tournaments for them to play in. Back, you know, in the controversial days of, like, why is WCS NA just actually... WCS Korea 0.5. That was still a tough region. There were so many players back then that it wasn't enough. And now, even though we have, you know, maybe less players, we do have more coming back, funnily enough. Oh my god, he's already getting Ghost Academy. Hold on here. Or not in a 25-minute TVZ. What's going on? Gonna have a bit of a cheese coming through. But anyways, to finish my point, it's still, there's one tournament happening, usually, right? There's GSL. And that's kind of it. And then maybe some qualifiers here and there, like IEM qualifiers and TSL qualifiers, but super difficult to actually, I don't know, make your mark. Although Tasia certainly will be used to it. Kid's got a lot of natural talent. But anywho, they'll pop up later on, perhaps in this qualifier later down the road. Right now, Time versus Ragnarok. Time not doing so hot when it comes to, you know, our expectations of him in the previous year, from the previous 2 years. He has not been getting so far in these qualifiers. Excuse me. Gonna try and get a cheeky little win here in game number 2 after a macro game number 1 not going in his favor. So a Ghost Academy being built. I'm gonna get this Ghost. No, it's not for a nuke. I'm sorry, guys. But it can actually be for snipes. If you see a bunch of queens, like 4 queens grouped up, maybe you go for the EMP, but this attack actually hits very, very soon. Pretty early Hellbat attack. He's not even gonna wait for the medevac, for instance. Actually, no, he didn't get an armory. I'm pretty sure TY gets an armory with this, so I'm sorry, it's just a Hellion attack. But yeah, the snipe will take out a queen. And the Ghost DPS isn't to be laughed at. It's not what we consider from the Ghost, because he's a spellcaster, so has so many more cool abilities than just his DPS, and 2 snipes is pretty good. But his DPS isn't that bad, honestly. I really would have... I don't mind the first push being Hellions and a Ghost, a single Ghost, but I really would have expected an armory. I mean, Time can barely afford it gas-wise, but I would have considered 1 less Ghost. Well, let's see if it snowballs. You take out the queens, which is really nice, but honestly, on creep, a decent amount of lings would also help against the army here. If it doesn't have Hellbats, because the medevac currently is only healing the ghosts. 4 queens and a spine crawler. Ragnarok might not have gotten the most amount of lings possible. Well, actually, he did get quite a few, because some of them were just over here. But he did take this very seriously. That spine crawler would have been helpful against the leftovers, basically. When everything was said and done, and the lings had been barbecued after attempt to surround, the banelings were gone. Like, the spine crawler could have been life or death, but I think Ragnarok's actually dealing with this very, very well. He's continuing to build queens. You can only have so many snipes, and that one even had to be canceled right there. And the Hellions, they shouldn't be the type of unit that actually wins a game, right? Hellbats rarely win games anymore, and they're chonky. The Hellions barely ever win games. Even when they have Blue Flame and they kill 40 drones, they're always like, no, I still got this. You didn't kill my entire army, so F you. But yeah. Has it been enough harassment damage? The question. Time is very fortunately, this is really important, is actually defending these Ling Run buys. This could have been so much of a disaster if he left a supply depot lowered because he wanted to reinforce, or just messed up his supply wall. That actually could have been a disaster. Really turn it around. Ragnarok, as it is, like, he spent money on lings that didn't end up doing very much, so technically, for being really critical here, he could have not made them to begin with, because he's holding regardless. And then he did have to make a lot of precautions against this. I think the threat of an armory, the threat of these Ring of Hellbats itself is already a pretty big deal, even though they never happened. And then, yeah, this is a decent amount of units, but more pokey than I expected. More of a poke than a push. So, decent amount of queens made, where maybe you wouldn't want all of these queens. Decent amount of lings made, maybe you wouldn't want all of these lings. And 4th base has been delayed, actually sending it over to the far left side. Speaking of delays, the creep spread also delayed. The queen numbers got sniped initially, literally, and then they had to probably worry about transfusing each other, so they probably waited a little bit longer to start slapping down creep. Now that they have no transfusion energy whatsoever, but they have plenty of creep to work with. Time was macroing pretty well behind this as a 3rd CC down location. Save the Hellions, so a run by still isn't that scary. Has the Ghost as well. I mean, we'll see if they're used with the push. I guess they will be, but I just... I would personally forget that they were part of my army and mess up the rank control groups. But anyways, also had that double drop at a pretty good time. But the double drop has got to hit with an attack. Follow up pretty swiftly here to stop Ragnarok from snowballing. I thought that was a drone. Maybe I was wrong. This one does make more sense as the fourth to me, though, so I'm glad to see this one was the one taken. Spire's on the way, but not done. Gets the high energy queen. No transfuse for you. This is not actually the push, though. The ghost will die. They will take a lot of Baneling hits. Oh, a Reaper grenade. That's funny. Baneling speed finished up. That is just barely enough, really. He has to get rid of the Banelings. Yeah. He does. Drops on top of him. Ragnarok gets pulled in. But that's not that scary of a push. I don't know. Well, okay, maybe it is. The Marines do get into the mineral line, and that's what they really want to do. On top of the lair already as well. Ragnarok, wow, really? Oh, okay, so that's why. I mean, seems to be making the right decision. I think this is a risky decision, but he seems to be the right one. I thought he was going to pull back his army to deal with this, and it'd be no problem. Because really isn't a whole lot of units, but he actually ended up just pulling back a few, and then going for actually an attempt at a run-by, attempt at a counter. The counter slash run-by doesn't seem too worth it, but he does defend his main, so it's... Like I said, it was risky, but it seems to be going okay here for Ragnarok, who also is saving his fourth base. Well, maybe. That's quite low. Looks like the Hellions and the Ghosts did a lot of damage to it before they got cleaned up. Mutas are out, which will certainly help take care of this. Deal with the medevacs as well as the tank. Actually got the medevac with all the Marines inside of it, so absolutely will take care of this. And okay, I'm back to my original assessment. I don't think that was that great of a push from Time. I was going to try and talk about how, like, he could have been on the front lines with 6 Hellbats and 2 Ghosts and this push. And a third tank, I guess, right? Because that one just died. And I think that's a little bit scarier than the double-pronged push he did. But I can see how the double-pronged push actually could have been a disaster for Ragnarok. He just handled it very well. Tanks trying to focus around top of the Banelings is not going to be enough. Missile turrets being planted offensively is always funny, but also not helpful against the overwhelming ground army. And the Mutas only took a couple of shots from that. 3 SCVs went down, I guess, with a run-by. 4 CC is done, so Time is not going to be out of the economy game at all. In fact, Ragnarok needs to bump that number up a little bit with the Mutilating Bling here. By the way, speaking of the composition, I'm a little surprised by this. Yes, the Mutas help deal with this little, like, ledge thing, but it's usually not that big of a deal, even if you go for, like, pure grounds. Nightshade, we've been seeing a lot of Roach Ravager. I would say Zen, we also see a decent amount, but ooh, the Ling Banelings finding Time unprepared. He didn't expect Ragnarok to be offensive. I don't really blame him. Way off of creep. In a very back and forth game for Ragnarok to actually try and do that. What if Time was paying attention? What if he did have a concave? Then that would have been a bit of a mistake. Ragnarok gets a decent trade for sure. Delays the 4 CC for just a couple of seconds as well, but that will be up and running. Now the Mutas can start shining really as harassments. 3 more on the way. They do not have +1 attack. And it's not on the way either, so I imagine that's all the Mutas will make. And more into the lane Baneling. Hatchery didn't end up surviving. He's spreading creep again to the south, because the creep certainly was a problem. That's why Time wanted to continue hitting this push right here, but it's back up and running. 5th base also on the way. Now that's very droppable. And in fact, a single drop going over there could get a cancel. I think so. Mutas trying their best. The Thor is out. Another Thor is on the way, so we're on double factory. Do we have drilling claws already? We do. Looks like +2 armor was a bit late, but more importantly, +3 attack is on the way. And ooh, oh, decent amount of Lings went down right there. Drop's gonna continue buying time. I mean, it's doomed. It's gonna die, but it's gonna buy time in the main base. As Time sets up a push to the south. Lots of Banelings were prepared, but good split as he realizes, oh, where's the Widow Mines? Actually, not too many Widow Mines. Couple moving forward now, but Ragnar's going to take the opportunity to go for a big ol' run by. Widow Mines do burrow, but they are going to be microed against. Thor's actually going to accidentally help block. Hello, Thor. Hello. Time's not paying attention as he's so focused on the attack. He's continuing forward, trying to clear up that creep, trying to actually hit that hatchery that is so low. Banelings rolling through. These very few Banelings back behind this. This might be the time for the Marines to push forward. Do they actually have the opportunity to do so? I'm not so sure. Banelings barely reaching over to the Marines to the right side. And the Marines on the north side having to be picked up against the Ling's Baneling Muta on the creep spread. So 16 SCVs go down and the push was held. Time was close to holding that position. If he had a second tank, if he had 16 more Marines. If he had 2 more Widow Mines, really. The ones that had to stay back and help against the run-by. I wonder what would have happened. But He does lose that position, still doesn't grab that 4th base, and now Ragnarok has a 5th base and quite the supply lead time. Trying to rebuild those workers isn't at a poor economy, but it's just not what you want to be spending your money on. You want to have full 8 racks production probably by now instead of rebuilding SCVs 150 minerals at a time. So they're just now only halfway done. Time also has not been able to produce literally everything all the time. Notice some Widow Mine production lacking, even for a second, is scary, as they really are what's going to save you against the overwhelming numbers that Ragnarok's gonna have. And also just the composition he has. Going for a Widow Mine drop, yeah, is also very dangerous. Ooh, kind of turns around on Ragnarok a little bit there. 1 Widow Mine will kill 1 Muta, but will take 4 to actually splash all of the Mutas. So Ragnarok gets them very low, but he'll save his own Mutas. Save him for later. Don't be a hero. Don't take out the Widow Mines. But the Widow Mine drop was not just scary to do because you might lose the Widow Mines before even doing anything. It was just a lot of splash taken away from the front lines. But Ragnarok was not quite in that position to just kind of hammer time over and over and over. Which you can see in a game like on Eternal Empire, where the creep is just, it's all over the place. There's 7 bases for the Zerg. They have plenty of bank. You'll see them just run in. It gets very scary, but Ragnarok's not there yet. I feel like he is getting there. Very different map than Eternal Empire. It's a lot scarier to dedicate a big Baneling attack that barely works, but then you're immediately countered than it is on the bigger maps. With more space between the bases and to the left and right. Ragnarok still has the ability to get maxed. He is going to go ahead and dedicate to a +1 flyer, but it feels so late. I'm actually surprised he even bothers, but he has been replacing his Mutas. I mean, they will benefit, and whatever else we see in the future, perhaps Broodlords will benefit. Oh, good Thor shot right there. 16 Mutas is just the right amount, really, to have a strong reaction from the Terran, right? 1 missile turret will not quite cut it, especially if they had +1. But 2 might, or an SCV pull on the repair will definitely do it. When they get up to the counts of 25 or 30, that's the insane amount. That's the amount that, like, 4 Widow Mines or bust, you know? Nothing's gonna hold unless you just stick a Thor on every mineral line. Time starting to adapt to the late game as well. Marauders slow, more Marauders, lots of Widow Mines. He's got to spread them out, though, against those run-bys. Starting his push again as he's maxed out. Now, he is pushing and defending, so he is a really strong spot here. And Zen really has become an even smaller map than we usually expect it to be by the expansion process of both players. And that's also why Ragnarok's been expanding to the left, which could have opened him up for some opportunity to get dropped, but his Mutas have been kind of controlling that left side, so it's really about the push to the right. Now, because he was able to get the top left base, worst case scenario here, Ragnarok just ditches the space. It's been mined out a decent amount. It's not a strong foothold to the rest of the game that you like have to keep. There's sometimes if you lose a base on other maps, it means that you have now access to the important 5th base that's also mining, like one of the last mining bases. In this case, I mean, you still have a lot of creep spread to go through to continue pushing, so even if you had to give up the space, I don't think it's a bad thing at all. SCVs go down at this space. Not enough missile turrets were planted to Widow Mines to help protect, and now the production is under fire. Going after the reactors is a really strong move. They are expensive, and they take a long time to rebuild. The front push, I don't know. There's not that many Widow Mines. That one's going to get a good shot. No, it didn't. How? What? How did all those banelings not die? Excuse me? Widow Mine, please? Hello? Still, I was on the side there weren't enough Widow Mines anyways. So many of them in the main base, and actually time not paying attention. In terms of resources there, it was the attention resource. I think that was the worst loss. Worst loss. There we go. For time. He didn't end up losing the army on the front lines, but it took away attention from the Mutas, which, I mean, they already did a lot of damage. They already killed a lot of SCVs, they killed a lot of reactors, but they also got an armory and more structures than they really should have. And Ragnarok didn't have to worry about them getting sniped either by a couple of Widow Mines, right? He actually could pay attention back at home and not worry about his mutas. Now this is a lot of units off of creep, so Ragnarok's got to be careful about how he handles this. He has a bit of a run by trying again to distract Time, but now Time with his full might of his army on here, if he gets to pay full attention and actually micro this, it is going to be difficult for Ragnarok to defend. He's got ultras on the way, he's got units coming in from every single base, and that hatchery is going to fall. Like I said, though, I don't think it's the biggest deal, not yet, but it's also not the biggest deal for Time. I mean, cool, you got the hatchery, but you gotta find another attack path that's really gonna reward you a lot more. And that gets really weird on Zen. We don't usually see such a long bio versus mutaling baneling game on this map. So you have this weird thing where Ragnarok had some decent creep spread horizontally, but not vertically, which is what we usually see. We usually see vertical creep spread, trying to get to your opponent's side of the map. But he's not been able to do it. Well, Medivacs not being in too good of a position. This is a lot stronger. You kill this base, you have opened up the entire left side of the map. The next 3 bases will fall perhaps pretty quickly. And this one's going to be a lot more important for Ragnarok to hold, as are all his fresh mining bases as well. That one on the bottom right was starting to get a little bit tired. He has ultras, he has a very large army, but... well, it's a maxed out army, but the actual army size might not be as large as you think. 90 workers here, putting him at almost half the army supply of his opponent. As he kills 14, 15 more workers in a planetary, Time is not rebuilding SCVs. He's actually just making more army. His army size is insane. He is a little bit all in because of this, in some sense of the word, but he is grabbing another 5th base. He's planting on a 6th command center because he has the minerals, and his army is still as strong as ever, running away from the banelings, not letting them get the good connections on these marauders, which are barely not dying. Thank you, Medivacs. Thank you very much. Time also having a tough time actually pushing in to get the win. He's going to maybe take a really good engagement here, though. The Thor is trying to block out the banelings a little bit, grabbing those mutas as well. Concave on top of the banelings too, and Time takes a pretty damn good fight. I don't see how there's any other way to actually take that fight. Unless Time just literally stood with Marines facing Baneling saying, please kill me. He was off creep. He had, as I said, almost double the army supply. Again, still almost doubling the army supply of Ragnarok. With plenty of good units, too. Thors, Widow Mines, and Marauders against his composition. Ragnarok might just not have enough army to make this work. He's been on 90 workers for far too long. He's killed his opponent's economy, as I said, kind of putting him all in. But, I mean, not even to like a point that says, okay, this is actually just it. You know, like, it's a bad thing to have 27 SCVs. All right, that's a bad economy. But there's actually a future here. There's still like 5 command centers. If he had to, he could start rebuilding SCVs. Now, he needs not to get cocky and go on to creep like this. It's getting a little bit more dangerous, but there's just simply not enough units here for Ragnarok. Not enough army units, I should say. If only 60 drones could help pull into this and actually do something. But maybe if this was 7 Immortals, they'd help. They certainly don't help against the Marines. Time's overwhelming army supply. Looking unbeatable. Maybe if Ragnarok had realized that he had 90 drones and maybe should be getting rid of like 15. 15 would be a decent amount to get rid of and still have a very strong economy. Maybe doing better, but he either didn't realize it or really thought that it was going to be okay. Fun games. Tied up 1-1. Game 3 is going to be on Simulacrum. Tied up here for the first series of the day. Whoever loses this heads to the losers bracket, which isn't nearly as grueling as the other brackets we've seen in these qualifiers. It would still be a decent chance to get through, and it wouldn't take that long. So I hope whoever loses here does stick around. But it'd be a lot nicer to go ahead and just advance forward. Top 2 qualify from today's tournament. The last 2 qualification spots for the entire TSL5 tournament, which will start its main tournament broadcast in a week and a half at this point. It's not this weekend, but next weekend. In the top left, as the blue Zerg, it is Ragnarok. And in the bottom right, we do have Time. Time being the best representative from China that we've had for years. There was one point where China, I mean, they were doing okay. I'm talking way back, you know, like Bitter Dam back in NASL. They're doing okay, but they were kind of doing okay because they were a little bit memey. Just the entire region, both China and Taiwan. And I mean, I don't want to say they were a joke, because that's a really, really cruel way to put it. But it was one of those things where whenever a Chinese player would come up, it'd be like, okay, what weird thing he's going to do? And I'm not saying like cheesy weird necessarily, although some were certainly cheesy. But like macro weird, like just like, oh, you're playing a totally different style. It's really not been the case for a while, but it did take a couple of years, more than a couple of years, for them to, I guess, merge styles with the rest of the world, you know, stop being so weird, and then also have a representative who could actually get deep into a tournament. He certainly had some other players do okay, certainly scary opponents in a bracket for some of the other players from the EU and NA regions, but Time was the first in a long, long time to make round of 4 in a WCS. That WCS system has been a lot of different things in the past 10 years, but it was a big deal. And it was actually also very good for viewership and just cheering. As the Chinese fans, there's a heck of a lot of them. All the Chinese tournaments, Chinese support for Starcraft 2 coming out saying like, yeah, we have the means to support this this whole entire game if need be. Kind of like what they did with Warcraft, maybe. Not at that point yet, but we're realizing just how big the scene is over there, and it's cool when Time makes it deep into a bracket. He hasn't done it in a little while, but to be fair, there's not been that many tournaments. Time is also just a fun player to cast, I think. He's not super cheesy, but he does include some cheeses. Like last game started with a Ghost Push with Hellions. His macro is really good. His builds are good. Able to vary it up in a best of 3. And all of his matchups seem pretty solid too. His TVP, as I was saying in the very beginning of the series, may be a little bit questionable. But whose isn't questionable? Alright, that's my question. TVP is difficult. Anyways, Ragnarok, going back to, I would say, his roots. I will always view Ragnarok as a cheesy player, even though he has, like, really good macro. And probably 45% of his games are macro, but, ooh, for me, he's a cheesy player. And the Roachborn coming down, well, that supports my theory. That's taking one example and being like, aha, I told you guys. But seriously, he does it a decent amount. Time should be at least someone expecting he should be on guard, alright? This is not facing... Actually, what Korean Zerg doesn't do cheeses? I mean, it's not like Serral, okay? I can't say that he's facing Serral, but like... No, actually, you know what? All the Korean Zergs are kind of cheesy. Maybe Dark. But Dark is also like really... He can do his all ends. Anyways, doesn't matter. Roachborn is done. Roaches are on the way, but we once again have an awkward situation like in the first game, but even more awkward, actually. The Hellbats will be available for the Lings, which do usually the most damage in a push. But a Banshee is also out this time instead of those Liberators to help out. And the Banshee is the best defense against pure Roaches that you can have. Usually the important thing about this is that the Banshee doesn't catch the Roaches, so she's trying to kill like a drone to the third base and suddenly Roaches at your front door. And that's when Roach Hellion doesn't look like the ultimate defensive setup. But if you're on guard, if you have good scouting, if you have good map presence, if you know the timings of this, so you say, I need to put my Banshee in this position here because Roaches could be on the way, then it actually is the best. It's not as seamless into the macro as perhaps the right into Sim and a single Liberator, but it is really good defensively, and Ragnarok has to respect that. So he went for Roaches. It did not work out. Already Time gets a bit of a lead here just based off that. You know, Ragnarok not droning when he should be usually in a macro game. And having delayed Ling speed also can be an issue if the Hellions are darting around, but Time is not going to bother putting them out on the map. Just keeping his Hellions at home, very safe. Ragnarok with that delayed Ling speed. Excuse me. Was never well set up to do the actual Ling Roach Ravager all-in, which is the good news. Again, if he had totally dedicated all the Lings with the Roaches and Ravagers there to break the front line, everything was set up well for Time. It would not have worked. It would have been a disaster. So, at least in this case, he only afforded the Roaches. Went right back into droning. And Time, well, Time at least had to respect what could have happened in this game. Banshees found a little bit of damage here and there. Did not quite get the Evolution Chamber, which would have been nice, but do a little damage here and there, but the Hellions don't get out on the map to do anything. And a little bit of a blip in Time's build order as well, since he had to respect it. But third CC down location now, and we're getting into a more macro-looking TVZ. Scarlet is now the cheesiest player in GSL. You're right. Yes. But I don't think I've ever described Scarlet as a macro player. Combat Shields isn't done, so staying here for the Marines is really not going to work out. Not the greatest push ever created. It can work without those combat shields, which are late, by the way. I think you just missed the timing on them. They usually finish with that 1-1. But even with the combat shields, there just weren't enough units to protect the tanks. You need that fodder on the front lines. Because then if they do reach back for the Ravager Corrosive Bile, which is what they're supposed to do, at least they lose a decent amount of units on the front line. And then you pick up whatever units do survive and leave. That push. Loss of 2 tanks. Not very good. Lost a lot of Marines, not very good. Whereas Ragnarok holds on to his Roaches and Ravagers, but maybe not his drones. There's a couple going down. Main base also being dropped. Ragnarok knew about it. Roaches are still somewhat slow, so he gets a queen and able to leave. Nicely done there from Time. Trying to keep the pressure up, even if he doesn't have a lot of units to do so. Just a single drop in Hellions usually don't do a whole lot, but it's something. Combat Shields finished up. 2-2 starts very swiftly. That's perhaps more important. Would have been nice to have Combat Shields at a perfect time, but actually it wouldn't have even hit with that push anyways, so whatevs. 4cc on the way. Time, definitely not a guy who's shown the 8 racks, 3cc all in. If this was Bomber, we'd be seeing that all the time. But also, I think it's very good that he doesn't do that against the style that Ragnarok's been playing in 2 out of 3 of these games. The Roach attack potential. This game, it wasn't actually the 1-1 Roach all-in. Dedicated pressure, whatever you want to call it. He has moved past 1-1 into melee and +2 carapace very quickly. And is adding on a lot of Ling and Baneling. This push is quite scary. The Baneling's not quite formed, and only like 5 or 6. Not even that impressive of amounts. With the creep being cleaned up, they are not impressive. Only 3 left now. Not usually what you want to do against a Widowmine there. The number of you, oh my god, he almost moved into that army. Yikes, he's supposed to pull back from the army, not move into it. The Banelings are not supposed to be that effective, but I was trying to say the number of Roaches and Ravagers is probably enough to deal with this. The Banelings almost did more than they ever should have. Hive's already on the way as Ragnarok playing a very defensive game. Time hopefully realizing that. Just for the pacing of the game wise. Like, he's been out on the map, he's continuing to drop, but So I think he does. I think he realizes, but also a scan on the hive might be nice. And start clearing up that creep spread. Sometimes against composition, we see combination factory production, but just Widowmine production. Whoops. I've got a tickle in my throat now. Oh, so annoying. And I'm out of water. No. 7 drones go down to the drop. More importantly, they're trying to pull this army out of position. Banelings crash into Widowmines, which is pretty effective. Drop's gonna head to the south. Looks like it didn't mean to be over here anyways. Vipers are on the way, but, you know, funnily enough... I mean, Vipers are always good, don't get me wrong. Spellcasters are generally good if you can afford them, but... This is not a tank-based composition. Like, the Blinding Clouds can affect the bio. Its AI push you into the Banelings, and that can be very effective. It's generally not what you expect to happen. To the point where you get Vipers versus a pure bio push. That's what this is. But, speaking of pure bio, doesn't usually hold up against the maxed Zerg arm. You need a bit of that splash. You need at least the threat of the splash. And time was getting awfully clumped up, which also is going to take a worse engagement. Now he has more units coming forward here, Widowmines, to help out, but the Vipers are ready to go with their Blinding Clouds, Parasitic Bomb, whatever they want to do here. Widowmines, maybe one shot went off, but not a whole lot. Corrosive Bile is raining down as well, going to grab a couple of those medevacs with the Parasitic Bomb on top of the right side ones for an extended period of time. Time is trying to hold here and is getting through the Roaches, but more Banelings on the way are going to barely protect their Ravagers. Time also perhaps F2ing desperately right now as he wants to be able to grab those Ravagers. Ragnarok should be able to remax in time, and actually I'm really concerned that time is over-dedicating. Like it might look like he has an upper hand here, but I don't think he actually does. He does have 2-2 upgrades over his opponent, who is at 2-1-1. That's about to change in just a second here. Okay, he's going to reposition. He's going to find an alternative angle while dropping to the north. He spots a couple Banelings that could... okay, it's actually meant to be joined with the main army. Widowmine's going to get some okay hits on the Lings. Kind of splashing that bio army, but good pullbacks from time as he micros and micros and micros and micros away. Going to grab some of those Ravagers while he can. Did the drop die? Oh my god! Yes, it did. Who does this? And why don't people do it more often? That's actually a really funny Spore Crawler line. Liberator Harassment's actually a really good idea. They can't exactly afford to have drops going around. They haven't been working as drops too. Spineclaws are in position. Units have been responding very quickly, but Liberators are just that like third option, you know, that can actually do some damage. So 7 drones, not too bad, but I think they were hoping that they were going to pull armies out of position more. And now it's like, ooh, 2 Liberators harassing like that, or 2 Liberators here. Like, which one would have been better? Most of the focus from both players are on that top side, so Time's bottom left base will actually get up and running. I think it was scouted. It's injured after all, so Ragnarok could maybe send like a handful of Banelings there just to crash into the SCVs. But anything more, and he'll risk losing his top right base. It's the way it goes. And the very top right base actually being taken by Time as well. Should he lose this push and be pushed back to his 4th, he'll probably lose that 5th. Ooh, the Widowmines need to get a couple of good shots here. They're not going to do so. Actually going off on the Ultras. Not the most effective. Not when there's Banelings to kill. Time all grouped up, trying to run away. 2 Parasitic Bombs on top of his medevac count, which was already destroyed earlier in an earlier push. It's actually going to go down to 1 if he's not careful, or 0. 2 barely living. No Corruptors, no Hydras to actually tear them down, but Time really needs to get back on the medevac count. 2 of them back here, killing a base, helping kill a base. They also killed an Ultralisk, if I'm not mistaken, that was there to defend against a single drop, or a drop that wasn't paid attention to. But there's that base going down like I said it would in case Time ever lost the aggression, and he did. Creep spread finally being cleared up to the north side. Not too many creep spreading queens. Bottom side is going to be cleaned up by the Lings. Widowmine's not being scouted, but he's going to reposition all those stag defenses. This base should not... I'm actually surprised. I feel like it should be canceled. It should not actually get up and run. Not yet. It might eventually, but not yet. Oh, too late. Too late. Ragnarok's ready to defend it. One of mine's do burrow. Gonna get some okay shots on the lings. More one of mine's can burrow. Another parasitic bomb's gonna get those two Medivacs. No, good pull away from time right there. As well as dodging the corrosive biles and tearing down the Ultralisks. Right now, without more lings and banelings supporting an army like this, the Ultras get really easy to target fire. Ravagers as well could go down, and they're not supposed to. They're supposed to live forever. Middle being cleaned up by a drop. Time just doing at least two things at all times. Dropping and attacking, cleaning up creep sprayed, and guarding against the base. You know, at least two things every time. Medivacs, if he could take a moment to breathe, would be really nice to repair, but at least he's replacing them now, and he does grab that cancel, as well as replace the top right base on location, building on location, and a 16-minute TDZ. That's usually not supposed to happen. Oh, there's that big attack I was talking about earlier. This actually has to kill the planetary. I was thinking more going about the SCVs, but looks like he will be rewarded with that little Baneling attack. Minimum amount of Banelings necessary to kill a planetary, so he's able to escape with some, and then he might just have enough to defend this base up top, because that's the scary thing. Even though planetary at 20 Banelings can be cool, and you can replace them quickly, and it might not actually affect the rest of the game as far as like the battle that's ongoing. But sometimes it does. Sometimes those 20 Banelings are really necessary to defend your 5th base. At time, he loses a base, he replaces a base. He loses a base, he replaces a base. Like, this is at least running, and I don't think Ragnarok has scouted it. He might actually forget about it. And it was, after all, very bold of time to go for that base again. It looks like he's going to scout it. That's really important, because time actually pulls away from the engagement. So the planetary could be the next target here for Ragnarok. Time has more command centers on the way, as well as starting to include those ghosts, which could go after the Ultras, they go after the Ravagers, they could even go after the Vipers. There's a lot of actually very expensive targets here for a unit like the Ghosts. He's going to go after the Vipers and the Ultras. Instantly sniped, forcing a big cancel on the Banelings as time pushes in. Ragnarok realizes, oh shit, I actually can't hold against this. I cannot do it. He did use a lot of Banelings at the top right, and this might be the exact scenario I was just describing, where those Banelings would have been so much more helpful defending against this push. The attack on the economy, not worth losing his own economy. He loses a 5th base. He's starting to lose a lot of those expensive units. He cannot make the Banelings in time. 3 more Ultras are on the way, but this base is also under threat, while time continues to expand to the bottom left. Time with a supply lead does dive onto creep, so it might change very soon. Baneling's trying to get some connections, but a lot of these units are actually very, very sturdy. Medivac's healing up Ghosts, which take a lot of Baneling shots to kill. Marauder's not going down either. They're just barely holding on to the push. Medivacs are mostly out of juice. A handful of Lings with Adrenal Glands would probably clean this up, but Ragnarok can't actually collect everything together in time. Is continuing to push mostly with Ghosts. He's got like 7 Ghosts in the front lines right now. GG. Time. 2-1. The validation, though, for me, man. You explain the, like, you know, the weakness of doing something like that, and then, like, a minute later it's shown, and you're like, nailed it. Honestly, if he had the Banelings used on the planetary to defend his 5th base,